So this is one of the great small inventions ever, the beard brush. I just getting ready and it feels really good because this thing started to itch a little bit, but beard brush, I just got it at Walgreens. Solid, perfect as, but boy, we're going through it right now. Baby is like 8 or 9 days old and the draft is over and the 49ers keep on signing players. We talked about Patrick McMorris this morning. Well, now it is another guy whose name starts with an MC, Sincere McCormick. This is what his agency put out there. That's him in a Raiders uniform. Sincere's already been with the 49ers, though. He was with the team from last August until last November or so on the practice squad. So the 49ers will be adding another running back. I'll tell you a little bit more about Sincere McCormick and where he's been ever since the 49ers waived him in November. But first, I need to emphasize that cuts are coming because you know that I track this 49ers roster very meticulously. They're over 90 now with all the players that we know about. They haven't made all the moves official, so that's why they're still under the 90-man limit, but they're going to have to let go of a player or two to make this all fit under that cap. Anyway, here's a look at the 49ers running back room. You've got Christian McCaffrey at the very top, obviously, coming off of a career high 413 carries. Kaelon Black, who is the number 90 overall pick in this year's draft out of Indiana. I have him as the second stringer. Maybe Jordan James will be above him when the season starts, but I'll have Kaelon Black as the running back 2 for now. Jordan James is running back number 3 because he finished last season ahead of Isaac Guerendo. And then Guerendo as the 4th running back. And I know I have him in the fullback row there, but I can tag Isaac Guerendo with a running back because we don't have enough room on this side of the dividing line. This is the 53-man roster projection on this side. Then we've got Patrick Taylor Jr., and now we can add Sincere McCormick to the 49ers practice squad projection. That's where he was last year. So I'll highlight him. Veteran edition is highlighted in teal. So McCormick, 25 years old. Last year, after he left the 49ers, they waived him, and then he got picked up, and he floated a little bit around the league with the Arizona Cardinals first, and then with the Denver Broncos and the Minnesota Vikings practice squads. He has only gotten in-game carries with the Raiders. That was in 2024, the year before he joined the 49ers. So it's a depth piece for the 49ers at running back. You typically like to have, for San Francisco, 4 running back bodies, 1 fullback body on the 53-man roster, but that is just for the regular season, and that is only for the 53-man roster. They're going to carry at least 1 running back beyond that on the practice squad. So they want to set up a competition for absolutely everything, and that competition looks like it'll be between Sincere McCormick and Patrick Taylor Jr., and who knows, Isaac Guerendo might be on the bubble as well, since we didn't see him take a single carry for the 49ers last season. What we do know is that Kaelon Black is now on this football team as running back 2 behind McCaffrey. And we do know that last year the 49ers had exceptional health between running backs 1 and 2. McCaffrey, 413 touches, and Brian Robinson Jr. did not get hurt over the course of the season. So the 49ers did not have to break the glass in case of emergency. They did not have to get to running back 3. However, Christian McCaffrey is going to be 30 on June 7th. The 49ers are realistic about this, and they have to be. The last time that he had a mass carry, mass usage season was in 2023. 2024 was not kind to Christian McCaffrey. That's when the bilateral Achilles tendonitis happened, and the 49ers certainly that year leaned more into the backup running backs. They had Isaac Guerendo with a nice rookie season, but he couldn't follow that up with a good 2025 season. Brian Robinson Jr. was not good catching the ball and being efficient as a receiver out of the backfield in 2025. Thankfully for the 49ers, Christian McCaffrey was so available because he was so healthy over the course of the whole year that it didn't really hurt them. In fact, they had to lean even heavier on Christian McCaffrey because of the fact that all the receivers and the tight ends were getting hurt. But there was even a moment in the season. They beat the Falcons in that game, and they were going on a long, methodical drive down the field against Atlanta, and Christian was tired, and he came out of the game. He's exhausted. Kyle Shanahan called the play where the running back was going to line up in the slot, and it was third down and long, moving into the red zone against the Falcons. Critical drive, trying to put the game away. And Kyle called the play, and he realized when he called the play that Christian McCaffrey wasn't out on the field. And it was a great example. It was like, oh crap kind of moment, because Christian is a singular talent, and only Christian could execute that particular early read route running action from the slot. The other running backs on the team, Brian Robinson, couldn't be trusted with that. Shanahan called the play. Christian McCaffrey, I guess, noticed that he called the play, or at least Shanahan saw Christian on the sideline and told Christian, you got to get back in the game. I don't care how tired you are. And you saw Christian sprint back out onto the field, get into the huddle. They made the substitution in time, and he lined up in the slot or came out of the back, whatever it was. He ran the pattern. It was a little seam route, and he ran it beautifully, even though he was exhausted. Mac Jones was the quarterback in that game, threaded the needle. McCaffrey made the catch, first down, and it set up the touchdown that ended up sealing the win against the Falcons. It gives you a good illustration of how badly the 49ers have relied on Christian McCaffrey, because he is such an integral part of their pass game. It isn't necessarily because of all the running stuff, even though he does that really well. It is because they can trust him in massive moments as a slot receiver, and that interchangeability is what makes this offense work, because it keeps defenses off balance. So, long story short, the 49ers, to cut down on the 413 touches, the career high for Christian McCaffrey, need more players who they could trust in the slot on 3rd and 11 against the LA Rams. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Falcons, but against the Seahawks on downs where you have to convert, and the numbers game is going to be won by the fact that you've got an extra eligible who can actually deliver in the receiving game. That's the glory of Christian McCaffrey, and that's what the 49ers are trying to find with his backup. Now, everybody says, well, Isaac Guerendo can catch the ball pretty well, and he did his rookie year. I don't necessarily know if they trust Isaac Guerendo running, though. So I don't know if they have the same dual threat. I know they don't, but it's one of those situations where they don't have the same ambidextrous capability, and that's what keeps defenses off balance. People talk about Jordan James. We saw him at the very end of the season in garbage time against Seattle. The problem is that Jordan James does not have the juice, I think, that Kaelon Black has. Jordan James didn't score well and only had one or two, maybe 1 run of over 20 yards in the final season of his college career. Everything was in between the line of scrimmage and the 10-yard line for him. So he's very solid fundamentally. He didn't fumble the ball at Oregon, but the 49ers need some juice to up these explosive rates, especially if they start getting better perimeter blocking this next year, which they expect. Now they've got Dejon Stribling and of course Mike Evans. The 49ers also would like some home run hitting from the running backs, and that is where Kaelon Black does come into the picture. Mike is sending me photos of Kaelon Black in pass protection, which is another example of pass game reliability that is mandatory for any running back in the Shanahan system. This is good because we get a look at Fernando Mendoza in that Indiana uniform. And the more Indiana tape that we can study, the better, because that's the best program in college football right now. And the 49ers have 4 of their players. Kaelon Black is only one of them. All right, I've got all of this ready to go. We're going to study some Kaelon Black pass protection up on the channel. So, first slide. Oh, this is going to be good. I like this. There's Fernando Mendoza, 15, Heisman Trophy winner in the middle of the screen. Let's identify Kaelon Black. Oh, it looks like he's taking on the Mike linebacker. Yes, he is. Good pass protection right there. Opens it up. I believe that's a touchdown right over the middle of the field. And that's a touchdown that happens because if you don't pick up that blitzer coming up the middle, the linebacker blitzing with your running back who's much smaller, if you don't pick that up, Fernando Mendoza does not have time to sit in there and make the primary read throw, which was this slant, whatever it was. I can't tell because we're not watching a video, but I do think that this does look somewhat recognizable because I think it was in the highlight reel for Kaelon Black. All right, here's another one. Oh, this is good too. Mendoza back to Well, these are two separate ones. All right, good. So Mendoza right here with Kaelon Black in front of him. Again, taking on a blitzer up the middle. That is a clean pocket. Fernando Mendoza, Heisman Trophy winner, #1 overall pick, is not going to have any trouble in that situation. Here's Black taking on somebody on the edge. I can't tell who that is, but that appears to be against Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. You take a look at the strength here in the lower body. He squats 515 pounds. He benches 400 pounds. He might be the best pass protecting back in this class. And he was what, the third running back taken? I also say that the 49ers definitely got a lot more value than the Arizona Cardinals got with Jeremiah Love. I mean, the Cardinals had to pay Jeremiah Love $54 million guaranteed. For the 49ers and Kaelon Black, I could look up the contract. We have the draft resources and contract estimates here. They do such a good job of that on Over the Cap. Third round, number, what was it, 90? $6.86 million total value and a signing bonus of only $1.45 million. So he's got about a 50th of the guaranteed money coming to Jeremiah Love. And as you can see, he can pass protect. And, well, if you want to talk about the receiving ability, then 26 catches at James Madison. They didn't use him in the receiving game at Indiana. They did a lot more of this kind of stuff at Indiana. They had him stay back in pass protection because they had a lot of weapons downfield in the receiving game. So they didn't necessarily have to go outlet to their running backs. 49ers were the opposite last year. Receivers weren't getting open for San Francisco. They haven't been getting open for 2 years or so now. So Christian McCaffrey had to be the leading target. I mean, for Mac Jones and for Brock Purdy, it seemed to revolve around Christian McCaffrey. For Mac especially, it did, though. San Francisco's in the NFL, so they're not just going to be able to freewheel it like Indiana was, just beat everybody with their receivers and with their blocking. You're going to have to get a little bit more creative in the league, and that's why Shanahan has his running backs on so many pass patterns. But back at James Madison, you saw Kaelon Black deliver out of the backfield. And then the 49ers saw it at the Senior Bowl. You know what's really interesting to me here is that this might be more of a Lynch pick than a Shanahan pick. And consensus within the building, we're not talking consensus on the big picture today. That is beating a dead horse at this point. But consensus within the 49ers building has been a big word ever since the 2024 draft. They didn't have good drafts in 2022 and 2023. The drafts, I thought, were handicapped a bit by a lot by the fact they didn't have first-round picks after trading away Trey Lance. But the 49ers turned around, and it looks like 2024 is going to be a good draft if Ricky Pearsall can stay healthy for the 49ers. That will give them another consistently good starter. And it looks like 2025 can be good as well, with at least 4 players on track to be good starting caliber players, and maybe more because we just haven't seen enough of that draft class. But the 49ers with with somebody like a Kaelon Black, you go back through the years of the 49ers drafting, and this is going to be I think the second highest running back ever picked. I think that they had Ty Davis Price picked a little bit higher, and Trey Sermon might have been slightly lower. What was he higher in the third round? He was a third round pick as well. But Ty Davis Price was obviously the very top of the crop for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch over this time. All of the backs prior to this have really seemed like Kyle Shanahan pet projects in the NFL draft. It really has seemed that way. And I think that Kyle has even joked about it after the fact. Kyle has even said, yeah, with the Jake Moody draft pick in 2023, he said, well, somebody asked him, some critical question about it, and he said, well, it was either that or me picking another running back in the third round, so we had to go with the kicker. Some self-deprecating humor. So it is fairly common knowledge, and it might even be recognized outwardly by Kyle Shanahan himself, that the early running back picks have been driven by him up until now. And none of those have worked out, right? The value that the 49ers have gotten has either been in the 6th round with Elijah Mitchell or undrafted free agency with Jordan Mason, or by splurging with draft capital in a trade for Christian McCaffrey. But it hadn't been with the 49ers draft picks above the 6th round for running backs. Jury's still out on Jordan James, who was a 5th round guy. But with this, with Kaelon Black, John Lynch was the one that went to the Senior Bowl. And I don't know if Kyle was there or not, but Lynch is the one that interviewed him at the Senior Bowl. Lynch was the one that was glowing about him in the press conference. Lynch was the one that said, after I talked to him, I was sold. And it's funny to me that the whole running back early pick problem that the 49ers have had has been so linked to Kyle Shanahan. Then they do this kind of move again. They pick a back at number 90, and it's John Lynch that sits up there taking all the credit for it. Maybe that's good news for the 49ers, since the other early running backs for San Francisco have not yet worked out. But I will say that this guy's a very good pass protector. He's a very good athlete. He's sudden with the way that he moves. Over 60% of Kaelon Black's yards last year, and he had over 1,000 for Indiana, were after contact. He's strong. Like I just inferred with that stat, he's tough to bring down. And I think that as a 3rd-round pick, you expect him to contribute immediately and be a starter in 2 or 3 years in the NFL. The 49ers believe he's got that starting capability. He was a starter at Indiana, the best college football team in the nation this year, and maybe one of the best of all time. And he led them in rushing touchdowns. They had multiple guys, right? But he led them in rushing touchdowns. He was a 1,000-yard runner for Indiana. And he's somebody that has an NFL skill set as far as being able to catch the ball. And he showed that at the Senior Bowl, where John Lynch scouted him. And as far as being able to pass protect, we have seen it in all of these still frames. He's just stoning people up at the line of scrimmage. One of the best pass protecting backs in this draft, maybe the best. I've got to get some water. I'm going to open this up to a Q&A. So you guys have at it with some questions. I really will be back in like 20 seconds. So just wait 1 second. Don't leave. Told you guys I'd be back. We're here, ready to answer your questions. Mike just texted me. We've got our fancy water. I was parched. More screenshots from Mike, because we're not allowed to play some of the tape. So we've got some good separation screenshots. This is from some of the passing drills at the Senior Bowl. Kaelon Black ran some nice routes there. That was cool to watch. I'll put those up in a little bit, but first I want to answer some questions while I drink my water. Somebody says that I'm muted, but I don't think that I'm muted. Looks like the mic is on. Can people hear me? Who gets cut at running back? It's a good question. Somebody might get cut tomorrow because they've got a lot of running backs now on this roster. And they've got to finalize this move for Sincere McCormick. They're going to have to cut somebody. To finalize the move for Patrick McMorris, they're going to have to finalize somebody. That's the safety. So obviously they're not cutting McCaffrey. They're not cutting Black. They're not cutting Jordan James. They could cut Patrick Taylor Jr. Mike even said, "What might they cut Garendo now?" That'd be headline news tomorrow. But right now they've got, not including Juszczyk, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 running backs on the team. They can keep that many through the offseason. They might cut somebody at a different position. One of the receivers might get cut, since they've got a lot of receivers now. They've got 12 receivers on the 90-man roster. They added 2 undrafted free agents as well. So maybe you take one out of that room to create a little bit of a room in the roster. I am from Visalia, yes. People asking where I'm from, Visalia, California. All right, let's ask some good questions. It seems that the draft included a lot of disciplined picks, players with fathers who are Marines. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things I emphasized. I mean, even wrote about this on the San Francisco Standard. And then you ask here, is this directly influenced by the Ayuk situation? It's influenced. I don't know if they directly influenced makes it sound like, oh boy, this went sideways. It was Ayuk. We better go find guys whose dads are Marines. I don't know if that was the thought process, but I think that they're constantly tinkering with their process and their list of traits, and maybe they upped the ante a little bit on discipline. Because yes, Ayuk did literally just walk out on the team, and that was a big headache for the 49ers. So no, I don't think that this directly changed anything, but I think that you're a product of your experiences, right? And any good organization, any quality human is going to take situations that didn't go great and apply lessons from them. And I think that the 49ers would be wise to apply whatever lessons they can from the Brandon Ayuk situation. And they might not have necessarily done anything wrong once Ayuk was already on the team. And, the one thing that you look back on and say they could have done differently, obviously, is traded him instead of giving him the contract after he was giving him some red flags during the contract negotiation. But you could still feel where you can be better as far as player evaluation goes. You could still maybe filter a little bit more strongly if you see some behavioral red flags. I don't think they did see anything with Ayuk up until he was up for his new contract, though. So I don't think the 49ers regret drafting Ayuk. They got a lot of good football out of him. They used the first-round pick in 2020. He was good in 2020. He was a little bit worse in 2021, but still a really important part of the football team. Really good in 2022 and 2023, part of a historically good offense. And then the contract stuff hit. And I think that's what really changed Brandon Ayuk was the contract stuff. And the 49ers had an escape that they could have taken by trading him before they gave him the contract, and they didn't do it. And unfortunately, I think that was their biggest mistake in the entire saga. And I think that Brandon Ayuk, actually, Eric Gomes is right. He himself said that he made things harder than they needed to be in negotiations. That might have been the last rational thing that we heard from Brandon Ayuk publicly. And then it was all downhill. This is a good question, and I'm not afraid to say I don't know the answer, but I will look into this. Is there any data on the success rate of turning college offensive tackles into pro guards? And you're obviously talking about Carver Willis, who is a guard now for the 49ers. Now, it might not just be guard, though. I think they might be looking at Carver Willis as a center in the future. He'll be competing at left guard for sure in the short run, but he was a tackle at Washington. Now, the cool thing about this is that the 49ers have a good relationship with Jed Fish, who is the University of Washington's head coach. In fact, they picked 2 straight Huskies. They went from Carver Willis straight down here to Ephesians Prysock. But anyway, with their relationship that they have with the Washington staff, I think that it's reasonable, logical to surmise that they did a lot of homework into the potential conversion of Carver Willis from tackle to guard, and not just that, to center as well. And center is the harder one to evaluate because it's so cerebral. But the physical measurements of Carver Willis, the arms are a bit shorter. He's not as good of an athlete as the other linemen they got, Enrique Cruz Jr. So they're going to keep Enrique at tackle because he's so fast. And Carver is going to be a guard and maybe a center Shorter arms, not the same kind of speed. And I'll look into your question to get a little bit of a better answer. What is the last thing that we heard from Ayuk? I did a video on it. He posted something a few days ago on Instagram, and he was getting out of a private jet with a couple dogs. So they didn't really tell us much more. Ryan, this is not true. Garoppolo did not leave the team multiple times. Brandon Ayuk, like, literally stopped showing up at the facility when he was required to. Jimmy Garoppolo would turn off his phone during parts of the offseason when he was not required to be at the building. He wasn't violating his contract. He was taking his time away from the team facility. Now, would that be a little bit frowned on by some really intense football guys who believe that you should be locked in at all times and you shouldn't have a vacation? Sure. And I think that's why that generated some rumblings, because maybe Kyle Shanahan wanted to get a hold of him at all times. But these guys are humans too. They don't have to work 365 days a year. Imagine if you had to respond to your boss for 365 days a year. I don't think that you would really enjoy that job. So Jimmy said, I'm going to take some time off. That's what he did in the offseason. He did not ghost the football team in the middle of a season. He did not leave the team. That's what Brandon Ayuk did. Those are two really different things. If Brandon Ayuk just decided to go, I don't know, to Europe, say that he wanted to go to France, say he wanted to go to Paris on vacation, and he went during the voluntary offseason program. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't even do this, but I'm saying during the voluntary portion of the offseason program, he would be well within his rights. He could turn off his phone. And as long as he stayed in shape and he came back ready to go during mandatory minicamp and training camp after that, there might be a few social media comments, but nobody would really find fault with that. But the fact that he just packed up and left during the middle of a season, that's the difference here. Jimmy Garoppolo never did that, so I don't think it's really fair to Jimmy to start dragging his name in there with Brandon Ayuk. Come on, this also isn't true. You're just trolling at this point. Jimmy Garoppolo failed his physical months after the NFC Championship game when he signed with the Raiders because his foot wasn't healthy yet, and they told him he'd need another surgery. He was still hurt in the NFC Championship. The proof is in the pudding. Guys, Ryan, you're cool because you comment a lot. You watch the show. You're a fan of the show. I get it. But you can't just sit here and slander people when it's not true. Like, let's keep it real. Like, Garoppolo literally had to have surgery, another one, on the same injury that you're talking about that you say that he refused to play in the NFC Championship game for. So he was just still hurt. Like, sometimes it's not all a conspiracy. You cannot believe every single Facebook post or Instagram reel that you see. Like, trust me, guys, like, I'm connected to the 49ers building. I know what's true and what's not. And my track record here speaks for itself. If you don't want to believe me, don't watch. But that was not the case with Jimmy Garoppolo. We can't just start making stuff up. Like, I'm going to call it out if I see it. Jimmy Garoppolo, actually, to set the record straight, played through a lot for the 49ers, and he deserves, if he retires this offseason, as looks like might be possible, he deserves a lot of respect from the 49ers fan base. In 2021, Jimmy Garoppolo played through a torn thumb ligament and torn shoulder ligaments, or torn shoulder capsules, both at the same time. One happened against the Titans late in the season. One happened against the Cowboys. Randy Gregory got him in the playoffs. And he went into Green Bay and played with both of those injuries to his throwing arm and was in a lot of pain. And the 49ers won that game. Obviously, they beat the Cowboys the week before, and they came up just short against the Rams. But he left it all out on the field. Yes, he got injured too much. That's why his tenure ended for the 49ers. I mean, ultimately, it was the injuries that did him in, especially in the 2020 season. And then Kyle Shanahan decided to make the draft pick. And obviously, Jimmy took back over after that and all that drama. But in retrospect, you could see that this was a guy that battled his ass off, played efficient football for the 49ers. And you know what? The lasting contribution of Jimmy Garoppolo is that he built the bridge to Brock Purdy. You know, people are going to kick and scream and be negative, and they're just going to be angry just to be angry. And you can, whatever, do you? If being angry is your speed, if you just want to see the bad and everything, fine. You know, vent online, do what you need to. But at least come back a couple of years after, once the emotions have cooled, and call a spade and recognize what happened in 2022. Trey Lance got hurt in week 2. Brock Purdy was on the team, but he was nowhere near ready at that point. I mean, Brock Purdy was handing off the wrong way during preseason. You guys remember that when I think it was against the Texans in preseason? Purdy might have been a shotgun snap, and he turned to hand off to a running back, and the running back was on his opposite side. I mean, Brock was still trying to figure out some of the nuances of what he needed to do, right? To be an effective quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo came back in even after the Trey Lance experiment failed and played awesome football. Like, he was really good. He was top efficiency football, maybe the best football of his 49ers tenure from the early part of the season after Trey got hurt all the way until week 13. So it was about 10 weeks of football from Jimmy Garoppolo until he broke the foot that caused him issues the next year with the Raiders. And without building that bridge to Brock Purdy against the Dolphins, maybe Purdy's not who he is right now, because situation is so important in this league. You tossing a quarterback in with the Sharks too early, that could lead to disastrous results. That could lead things tumbling in the wrong direction, right? If you get a quarterback enough time to build some confidence on the scout team and practice, give him a nice little tailwind, that's when he can take off. And I think that what Jimmy Garoppolo was able to do over those 10 weeks in 2022, the unexpected return of Jimmy Garoppolo, really, really helped the 49ers get things, like, clear the runway for Brock Purdy. And then the takeoff was glorious. Man, I'm thirsty. This water, by the way, is so good. You can't drink tap water again after you have it. Mike sent me some more screenshots. We're going to take a look. Oh, boy. Why don't we finish up by taking a look at Kaelon Black and his pass catching ability? Mike is just grinding the tape and sending me screenshots so we can actually put some of this stuff up on the screen. So here's Kaelon Black, and I know that we didn't get to see a lot of this at the University of Indiana, but we did get to see it at James Madison. We did get to see it here in the Senior Bowl during passing drills. He's going to be running an out pattern. And this is up online, so you can go check it out. Kaelon Black at the Senior Bowl. He got some nice separation. He was able to get open. He had the quick hips. He had the sudden step, and I think he's got the hands too. He had 26 catches that final year at James Madison. So anyway, 49ers have added a running back. Be ready tomorrow for some cuts. When the 49ers make these moves official with Sincere McCormick and with Patrick McMorris, they're going to have to clear some roster space, and then we'll have the 49ers' first initial 90-man roster of the season. This sheet right here is going to be updated. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. It's been good. We'll talk to you soon.